How's everybody doing today? I'm trying to get motivated. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Let's get it going. You see the thumbnail? AI used by hackers taking abuse of Gemini, which we knew that was going to happen. We knew that was going to happen. So. See. Hopefully everybody's having a good day out there, getting your grind on, getting your interviews in, out there trying to get into the industry. A little rough time though. Appreciate you, Jeffrey Johnson, for the one in the chat. Let's get rolling, people. You know how we do it. Any questions, tech or cybersecurity, drop them in the box. We'll make that happen. And I will not be going live tomorrow. A good friend of mine is retiring. So I was summoned to a retirement lunch, but I'm going to release a video tomorrow. I just will not be live. So kind of bummer for me. I'm trying to get used to the cadence. But once again, any questions, cybersecurity or tech, drop them in the chat. Professor Black Ops trying to do his thing. Let's roll. This video I think I did in 2025 around November. They abused Anthropic's AI to do a nation state attack. I think it was the Chinese on that one. So once again, it's nothing new. I think all the big and small LLMs are going to be used by nation states to attack. It just makes it a lot easier, right? You can scale up, and I've been saying this for 5 years. The script kiddies are getting so much better because the tools are so much better. Now they can write malware scripts. Why? Because they're not writing them. AI is writing them, right? So AI is making the script kiddie much more dangerous. So I think they're actually moving the script kiddies to mid-level. Once again, I just think AI is the good and the bad. Once again, it's making the script kiddie dangerous out here. So let's get into it. Google's threat intelligence groups, they have their red team and SOC team on top of it, has published a new report showing that the state-sponsored hackers and advanced threat actors are using Google generative AI model, Gemini, to support multi-stage of cyber attacks. At the end, we're going to go through the MITRE attack chain, and we're going to kind of point out some of the AI pieces of it. Actually, all the AI pieces, because remember, it says in all the attack chain surfaces. Gemini is supporting a multi-stage cyber attacks, according to the research. The threat actors no longer using AI just for one task. They're integrating AI into virtually every phase of the typical cyber operations. Groups from China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. Among those applying AI to scale, this signifies not only evolving attackers' capabilities, but also that AI tools becoming ubiquitous offensive resource rather than a niche assistant. Because I think originally they were just using bits and pieces of AI. Now they're letting AI run the whole attack chain. And that's what Anthropic saw. They saw the chain being used in their product and they just stopped it. Shout out to them, their SOC team. They were logging it, checking out the prompts and output of it. And they just said, it looks suspicious. It looks suspicious. It looks suspicious out there. So that's what the things, and that's kind of what we're going to talk today. Then from a GRC perspective, how do you put that into your incident response playbook? Your incident response exercise you need to do annually. So that's one of the things I probably do in the near future is do an incident response exercise for specifically an AI attack. All right, I've done a couple of those on YouTube. I've done a couple of those in Discord. So I'll probably do an AI one and just kind of walk through an incident response and what that will look like. And from a company, what is your response to a specific AI attack? Reconnaissance and target profile. Hackers use AI to map out target organizations, pull information from open source, identify key personnel and vulnerabilities. AI significantly speeds up traditionally took hours or days of manual research. Right? Who's in your companies, who your essays. Then a lot of times is um, you put your essays and your privileged IT guys, they're on LinkedIn. They tell what tools they're using on their LinkedIn. So that's half the reconnaissance. I know you're using Apache, Tomcat, Oracle, AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle's cloud, right? So I could piece all that together just by going through your LinkedIn profile. Then I did a threat model on study GRC, and the company we look at, I went to AWS. They did a presentation and they walked through their whole tech stack. I think we were talking about Snowflake. So they did their whole company talking about Snowflake. Then they didn't put a MFA on Snowflake and ended up getting hacked. Right. So it wasn't like I did this cent big time reconnaissance. A lot of people talk too much. Shout out to my mom. She used to tell me when I was little, you talk too much. Right. So I always get nervous when people put stuff about their company. The this company, won this bid, or the tool you use is profiling your company. Okay, now everybody know what you're using, and that's half the battle. Now, if AI knows you using this, it can say, okay, these are all. Shout out to the equalizer. So so if I know you using this version of the software or around this version, right, I can have AI pull up all the vulnerabilities for that particular software. I can say what's the attack chain. If they're down 2 revisions, how would I be able to hack their organization? So AI makes that so much easier. So now, once again, what's your attack? Your reconnaissance is a lot easier, and I've done that a number of times. Shout out to Study GRC. He's like, dude, I look up stuff. I'm like, dude, I found their because everybody know I'm an AWS guy. I found their presentation on AWS, and they're like, once again, what services they were doing. They laid out their architecture, how they were connecting to the pieces together. I'm like, oh, okay. If they're not doing proper encryption right here, I can, shout out to. So once again, I tell you, you talk too much. Shout out to my mom. You talk too much, right? So once again, so when I get inside companies, I'm like, hey, we shouldn't be putting this stuff in our presentation or on our website, or maybe we don't want to be profiled or highlighted or spotlighted in this cloud presentation, right? Because when you do that, people will attack you. People will attack you because a lot of people don't have anything to do, right? So you once again, you tell them your whole tech stack, not a good move. Let's keep going. Phishing and social engineering attackers generate highly convincing tailored phishing lures using Gemini language capabilities. This includes personalized email bait, credible spoofing content, target specific social engineering scripts. The quality of realism of AI generated messages make them harder to detect with traditional defense. That's 100%. I used to see, I work for a big state agency. I talked to the kind of the state IT. They was talking about they got 1 billion spam a month, right? I thought they were exaggerating, but most of it was poorly worded, grammar misspellings. AI done cut all of that out, right? So it could tell you what tone it should be. It could double check, your URLs. A lot of times they were misspelling in the URLs just to kind of get you to click on them. Now they got hidden characters in there, and it looks like the actual company because you can't see the hidden characters right now. But now, shout out to Defender, shout out to Okta, shout out to Mandiant. Their email defenders are a lot better now. But you just reading one now, it's a lot harder. Then two is that personalized email bait. Now, if you say you doing Azure and put some golf in there and put some premium vodka in there, I might click on it. You might get me, right? Those are the three things I love on this planet, right? So, like they said, personalized email bait. So if I know the things you like from your LinkedIn, because shout out to the equalizer, you talk too much, right? So now I got target specific social engineering scripts for your top guys. I just need one of them to make a mistake to click on it. Let's keep rolling. Coding, malware development, and troubleshooting. AI is being leveraged to generate C# or other malware code, refine attack scripts, troubleshoot issues after breaching a network, help adjust malicious code to evade detection. This means attack tools themselves can partially AI assisted or AI generated. Once again, AI is making it a lot harder on your SOC team and just on your whole security infrastructure. So if you got a small team, you under immense pressure, right? So once again, um, I think though, shout out to Microsoft. I'm not a huge Microsoft fan, but I think the Defender, Entra ID, and that whole set of services, once again, the script kiddies are getting better. I think the small, medium-sized companies are getting better because that whole Microsoft ecosystem. And let's not be fooled, Microsoft's got some of the top security guys on the planet, right? And they partner with Mandiant a lot of times too, which is the top security, unless you're going to move it out to the Israel guys. But once again, the script kiddies getting better. The small and medium sized company gets better. And once again, shout out to Microsoft. I think they're actually making inroads into that. Vulnerability analysis and testing. Threat actors request AI to simulate security testing, suggest exploit paths, identify a weakness point in your software and configuration. Sometimes this happens through fabricated scenarios that prompt the model to behave like a vulnerability scanner or tester. And once again, AI is used for, like they said, multifaceted things from a red team perspective. So if you're not using AI to help you with your red team, help you with your reconnaissance, I would actually, which I hesitate is just kind of take the IPs off and put a network map on in there and just tell it to say what is your specific reconnaissance attack for a network simulated like this. It'll give it to you, which is crazy. But you need to be testing yourself like the hackers are going to test yourself. And once again, with AI, that makes it a lot easier for you to upgrade your red team skills. When I was at DoD, a lot of people know I worked at DoD. We have to do an outside company to do a penetration test every 3 years. So every other year, you should be using AI to do your penetration test for you, right? Internally and externally, right? I would have it scan your perimeter. These are our public URLs. What do you see? What can you see? A lot of times too is once you do those scans, it'll start saying, it'll start showing you attack surfaces and it'll show you how to harden them. Like I did a Qualys test years ago, probably 3 or 4 years on YouTube. I ran it. It was Panera Bread. It told me it was Apache website. It gave me their version number and everything, right? And I'm not even a red team guy, right? So once again, I think you need to be using AI once again to assist you and assist your company, especially if you're a small or medium sized company, because sometimes those resources are expensive. Model extraction and distillation. Beyond direct attack support, adversaries are attempting model extraction techniques, probing AI systems via API prompts to replicate capabilities or logic to reuse an offline malicious workflow. The activities mirror intellectual property thefts of AI tools, remove constraints that platforms normally enforce. Once again, just using AI to extract your model. And a lot of times people have AI in their system. So they're actually having AI give out corporate secrets, give out IP, give out IP, intellectual property, right? So once again, AI can be used to assist you, but sometimes they have AI, they attack AI in different ways. And once again, at the end, we're going to go through the top eight ways to attack AI from a MITRE perspective. We want to protect our IP. Most companies have some form of IP. That's why they're in business. All right. So that's what we do. Once again, put your questions, cybersecurity or tech, in the chat. Just kind of flowing through today. Got my walk on. It's a little warmer in the Midwest, so trying to get a little exercise going on. Didn't go very well, but let's keep rolling. Examples of groups using AI. Reporter actors included. We talked about the North Korean link, UNC 2097. If you go to MITRE group, the Chinese threat group, the Iran APT, advanced persistent threats, the Russian operators. I need to reach out to Gabe. That's his expertise. These actors are applying AI not just for reconnaissance, but also for writing phishing contents, crafting code. That's the new one, really. It takes a lot to write code, right, to attack people. Having to craft code is definitely a different skill. Scaling that operation and generating realistic attack language. So that's kind of the new part, which AI is interesting. Once again, the pluses and minuses. AI is going to be in everything in a minute. See what man, the equalizer says. Can you name the top security company you mentioned? Oh, Mandiant, Mandiant. I think from the United States, they're one of the top ones. Mandiant. If you reach out to, well, I don't want to give them any work, but Struggle Security actually used to work for Mandiant, so we actually had that. Yeah, if you Google it, there was a big hack. I can't remember who it was. I was surprised to see Mandiant and Microsoft team up. I never put Microsoft on that level of a Mandiant, but yeah, Mandiant's kind of the big dog. Shout out to my man Anderson Anthony, not the actor. Um, Not really. I just think Salesforce sits on top of AWS, and I just don't think they're tightening down their security. I think they're getting there. I just think they were low hanging fruit at the time, and it was known what those vulnerabilities were. And I think on the dark web, people were selling those to other dark web guys to attack. So for me, and Salesforce has a lot of big companies, a lot of government contracts. So I just think it was a easy. I just think they had vulnerabilities in their software, so they were just attacked du jour of the month. And once again, I just think that stuff kind of spreads on the dark web. A lot of those groups work together. So if you have a 0 day or a specific vulnerability, they just spread it around. Um, they all want to eat. That's kind of my personal perspective. Once again, Salesforce got all the big companies, a lot of federal contracts. Um, that part of that making it easier. I was actually thinking about going to work for Salesforce from a compliance standpoint. A good friend of mine is vice president of Midwest and Canadian sales. I'm supposed to get him on for an interview, but once again, I'll let you chime in on that. That's just kind of my thought pattern. Their security wasn't as tight as it should be once it sit on top of AWS, and they had all the big clients and the federal stuff, so they just made it the tactics. Like everybody was a stack of snowflake for a minute. I don't even think it was Snowflake's fault. People just didn't secure it the way they asked, so everybody was attacking Snowflake for a minute. Model extraction risk. Attackers not only using Gemini for simple tasks, they're attempting to extract or distill models, probing AIs to replicate reasoning patterns, rebuilding AI capabilities offline, using distilled models to bypass platform protection, Model theft raised concerns about unauthorized replication of proprietary intelligence, distribution of black market AI tools, loss of control of how models are used in offensive contexts. Once again, AI is so, I'm gonna say new. It's not new. AI has been out for 50 years. I did AI in college. You just couldn't do it because they were trying to do it on a mainframe because there wasn't enough power. So I just think now AI is just the tech tool du jour. AI always kind of latch on to certain things that makes money and it's hot, and it's just AI time. Before that, it was mainframe, client server, cloud, infrastructure, databases. So there's always a hot tech thing, which is the good and bad about technology. So you got to keep learning, and to keep different attacks. I appreciate that. You can disagree with me. PBL don't know everything. I just gotta get my thing. But yeah, um, Salesforce was dominating, especially on the ease of use, that click stuff. I know a lot of small agencies and companies really like Salesforce. AWS is just a beast, and Azure. So kind of putting that interface on top of it to make it easier to use. So once again, they were hot for a minute. Traditional security tools struggle. Defense optimized for signature and anomaly detection are less effective against AI automated process and AI crafted attacks. So yeah, a lot of your current scanners. Shout out to Microsoft. Shout out to all the big vendors in there that's using that signature. I did signature forever, right? Even anomaly attack. AI now, make it easier where those things aren't being picked up. AI dramatically increases the scale and quality of phishing and impersonation. Yeah, now you can impersonate somebody. You can take their pictures off. You can take their voice off and go deep fake. It's easy to do a deep fake now. So that's kind of the scary parts about it, right? So that's probably why I went to GRC. that security, it's that plethora of things, especially on top of AI, is super hard. There was a restaurant in the state I'm in, Indiana. They dubbed the CEO voice, did a deep fake. They had their accounting department because it was emergency sent over like $250,000 in a wire. The restaurant ended up going out of business because they sent them all the money. But it was the CEO's voice. But once again, it was a deep fake. So that type of stuff coming from AI, that's not even AI, that's machine learning, right? So those new attacks are fundamentally from a GRC perspective. How do we help the organization from an incident response perspective exercise to get companies ready for an AI attack? Cyber teams must adapt to detect AI generated content, monitor unusual API usage, harden controls about public AI models, use AI defense for threat detection and behavior profiling, right? Using AI on our side for once, right? We're getting attacked, but once again, you can use it for threat detection, behavior monitoring, um, API throttling. There's a lot of things. Once again, we can use AI on our side to get ready. And if you're not doing an AI incident response test this year, I think you're behind as an organization. And I think you're behind as a GRC person. And I don't expect it to be this super duper, super complex, but let's at least have the conversation of what that would be. It could be something as um, we got a reconnaissance scan from AI. There was an AI signature. It came from a cloud vendor. So, what will be the run book for that? Do we shut down our public APIs off of reconnaissance? Um, do we once again lock down our databases? do we who do we call? Right? Do we call our third party vendors if it's coming from our third party vendors? Do we have a contact list for those third party vendors? But some kind of AI, once again, incident response. So we can at least go through the checklist and hit those boxes from an internal organization of what should we do. Then if AI leaks PII, okay, who once again, do we lock down a database? Do we call the president? If it's DOD data elements, if it's IRS, who do we call from that? If it's IRS, it's called TIGDA. Who do we let know from TIGDA? Once again, if it's coming from one of our third parties, do we got calls for those? Can we shut down those APIs from a runbook perspective? It looks like an AI attack. Can we just the run book automatically shut down those APIs till we do investigation? shout out to my man Word. But once again, I'll do a video on that of incident response from an AI perspective. And I usually like to start off with some kind of easy to ease the organization in. A lot of times it's communication, and that's half the battle. What organizations should do to mitigate an AI attack: strengthen detection, deploy an AI-aware threat detection, monitor unusual use of LLM APIs. So that would be one of the questions. Do we have that in the organization? Do we have an AI-aware threat detection? I think that comes with Defender and Enter ID. I need to do some research, but do we have that capability? If not, we need to put it in a poem because we need to get that capability, right? So if we get an assessment and they ask us about AI capability, we can say it's on a poem, it's going to be in the budget in 2027. I work for a lot of states. We don't have any money, but once again, the assessor kind of gives you a checkbox because once again, you reviewed it, you know how it works, and you got it in the budget. Does GRC, shout out to my man MJ Finance, does GRC fall under regulatory tech, red text, or is it just cybersecurity? It really depends on the size of the organization. Most small companies and medium-sized companies doesn't have GRC. Usually you have GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, when you report to a federal agency. Once again, I used to work for a state and we reported to the IRS. So since we had that IRS component, we put it under just GRC. And a lot of times it just files under cybersecurity, depending on the size of the organization. So a lot of times it's CISO, compliance director, and a lot of times GRC files under compliance director. I used to work for a Fortune 500 company years ago. We had a compliance director, a CISO, and a privacy director, right? So it depends on the maturity of your organization. A lot of times, once again, when you do GRC, you're reporting to a governance agency. The reason why is they gave you some kind of finding. Like HIPAA and high trust, some happen. Once again, I do the IRS, and they come out every 3 years and do an assessment. So usually when you see GRC, somehow you had a finding, even if it's a weak PCI, right? You have to get credit card, you have to get review for that. So you have to have that security program, including GRC, from a credit card perspective. So now, I usually just put it on the compliance. I think more companies are starting to do GRC on the regular tech, because even if you do best practices, you're gonna have policy, procedure, plans. A lot of times when you talk about under tech, they don't have that proper paperwork, because it is a lot of paperwork. Let me know if that can answer your question, MJ Finance. My fault. I'm kind of rambling a little bit today. PBL went on for a walk. He out of shape. Let me know. If you need a little more clarification, just put it in the box. Validate content. Use tools to flag AI-generated phishing. Train employees to recognize IA artificial crafted scams. And so what does that look like? All right. A lot of times they generate a URL that's a little too good, but when you hover over it, right, it's instead of .com, it might be .gov or .edu or some other domain. So once again, trying to figure out, doing training to see AI generated scams for email. Usually we used to do that with the awareness training. It was just for poorly worded emails, but now we got to take it to the next level and do it for AI. Monitor API access. Watch for unusual prompts and probing, enforce rate limits and authentication for your AI access. Use AI for real-time anomaly detection. Again, integrate threat intelligence systems into your response workflow, and that's part of your incident response. Once again, when you know you're getting attacked by AI or some kind of AI phishing, what is your response workflow? I call it, what's your run book? These are the things in the run book. Okay, these keys were found out in some forum. Let's revalidate the keys. Let's generate new keys. Let's take the keys out really and give them roles. We don't want to really deal with API keys. But once again, what's that workflow if that ever happens? Right. The two part of GRC perspective is if your keys are out there, you might have some regulatory filings and notifications you need to do because theoretically that's leakage. So what's the difference between a breach and a leakage? Breach was somebody actually got your data. Leakage is your data was somewhere it shouldn't be, and that system is not at the level hardening of, once again, the IRS, HIPAA, high trust. So there's a difference between breach and leakage. And depending on which one of those it is, you still might have to have a breach notification once again to your federal agency that has oversight of your org. Key takeaways: generative AI seen as a productivity and assistant tools is now being operationalized as a cyber attack tool by sophisticated threat actors. I disagree with that. Why is that? I think it's done by script kiddies. I don't think you need to be sophisticated to run AI. If you have some decent prompts, it'll give you what you need, right? Once again, we saw Google and we saw Anthropic. Now, those were nation states, so I do think they're talented, but I don't think you need to be a sophisticated threat actor to use AI. Now, to get the most out of AI, I agree, but to use it at a mid level, I don't think you need to be sophisticated. Hackers using Gemini AI throughout every phase of the attack lifecycle, from initial reconnaissance to post exploitation troubleshooting, turning AI into I like this word, force multiplier for offensive operations. Right, aka I went from script kiddie to almost nation state because I'm using AI. AI is telling me the good, the bad. It's elevating my type of attacks. There's dark webs out there that's helping me use it. They're actually giving me malware to attack you because they want a piece of what I'm doing. Right, so I don't think you need to be sophisticated to use AI. That's the benefit of it. Let's talk about defensive takeaways to counter the evolving threat landscape. Strengthen telemetry and logging. Track unusual AI usage, especially for non-standard processor networks. That says you always got to get your logging up, right? We got to be able to trace it. Even if we get hacked, we want to be able who attacked us, what IP, what was the size of the file, and where it went. And that's the thing you got to be careful. A lot of these MCP and agents, they're going to delete the logs because either they got food to delete the logs or they thought they were doing something they supposed to do. So you need to move your log somewhere to a SIM where your agents can't get to it. Right? If your agents can get to it, then you really don't have logs. Let's see what my man MG Finance. I'm designing some AI system specific. Okay, anomaly detection, but no for cryptocurrency, which they report. Okay, SEC and other agencies. No, I agree with that. Because a lot of times, if you report to the SEC, those companies usually are, if they're not big, they make a lot of money. So no, that's cool. GRC files on the red tech. Oh, you red tech. I put red tech and compliance together. But yeah, because all of that division has regulatory filings. Once again, I mentioned the IRS. I kind of lump all that under the Fed report. So yeah, I can see that red tech. Like I said, I put it all under compliance. Yeah, regulation. And really, that's where GRC really starts coming into play because you got to report. And two is a lot of those federal requirements, you have to send documentation for a self assessment. So you have to have all that paperwork. I don't know about the SEC specifically, but once again, I do a lot of work with the IRS. You're dealing with CGIS, FBI, which is the state police. So a lot of those federal regulations, you have to do a self-assessment every year. And a lot of times they want you to zip that paperwork up and send it to that particular, once again, federal regulatory agencies. But that's cool. Good luck with that. Following the red tech. Yeah, I make my living into that regulatory filing. Once again, I usually do a lot more IRS work, but for me, it's all the same. I'm in this 800-53 guy, so from once again, it all rolls up to that. Oh, facts. Palo at least there. Facts. Let's see. How do you have a slide deck live for this? I want to give you some credit as I quickly talk on this. Yep, I do. I taught for 10 years as a community college, so I always do a slide deck. I always do a slide deck. So I appreciate you. Let's see. Palo Alto released their glove. Okay. Yeah, I think every Palo Alto has one. What's the other? Verizon has theirs. So there's a number one of those. Shout out to ease up. Shout out to my man Chris Whitlock, president of Study GRC. I'm usually over there bothering those guys. He's going live 7 p.m. tonight. I'll be in there bothering those guys. But now, shout out Wire Dog. I usually look at Verizon's a little more. Exfiltration speed, the fastest attack quad. Oh yeah, facts. I might go look at that one now, but yeah, the speed is just astronomical. We talked about strengthening the logging, build an AI usage policy, define what teams and identities are permitted to call AI. That's one thing I worry about. I see a lot of AI. They're running as root. They let them buy. They're like, it's not least privilege. They got overprivileged. They got too many. So what is your AI running? And two is we letting your AI once again call your APIs. Does it have the proper permission to call that API? Then two is once again those APIs have too much permission. So now it's just like permission on top of permission, right? So a lot of times, shout out to Motebot and Cloud is I like to have different agencies with permission to do different job functions. Then they pull the data back out to kind of master agent that's going to take all that information and stitch it together, summarize it, and do what it needs to do as a controller agent. So that's kind of one of my things. So that AI API is going to be crazy. Because once again, shout out to my man. We were talking about they just let AIs do what they want to do. They just give them root because they don't want anything to block the AI. So when a bad guy tricks the AI or overtakes the AI is overprivileging it to do way too much damage. Correlate AI calls with some suspicious process execution or outbound traffic to spot early staging. Hardening systems, we were just talking about that. Keep system patch and enforce strict least privilege principles. And we're not doing that. we're suffering. We're not even close to that. I appreciate that word. So yeah, so we got to try to get, and the teams, they don't want you to get in the way. Yeah, I'll be trying. Sometimes the show must go on. So at least get them to put it in writing that this user got too much privileges or we get too much data. All right. We talked about privacy and limiting how much PII data you get back. That doesn't happen in real life because we make our money on data. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product, right? So I think that's one thing we're still suffering with and struggling with. So let's talk about to counter the evolving that we just talked about that once again. Telemetry and logging, building an AI usage policy, correlate signals, and hardening the environment. And I think that's what some of the big AI LLMs were figuring out, a la Google and a la Anthropic. Once they start looking through their their logs, they're like, "Oh, this company looking like they're attacking other companies. We need to go out and block them," right? So when they were checking inside the LLM, they figured out nation states were using their products to do attack. How did they figure that out? Logging. They logging everything you do, which is crazy because those companies probably a quarter of the United States is using ChatGPT. So how many logs are they using? But once again, they got logs. They're having AI go through their logs to helpfully, let them know if somebody's doing something that's risky or not. So you got to have your AI helping your AI. What does that mean for security teams? We were talking about that. The key shift isn't AI introduction and new vulnerabilities per se, is that AI is now fully embedded as an attack workflow in ways that reduce the time between plan and execution. My man Wire Dog just talked about the velocity and attacks of that. Increase the scale and sophistication of social engineering. Yeah, those emails used to be worded wrong. The tenor of the email used to be wrong. AI is fixing all of that. Lower the barrier to crafting malware and scripts. Security teams must adapt by treating AI not just as a defensive tool, but as a potential offense enabler to be monitored and mitigated. If you don't know AI is going to attack you, you're in trouble. So once again, I probably get with Study GRC, and we're going to do an incident response using AI. From an AI attack. Once again, what does that look like? What run books do we need in place? Once again, the login, the telemetry, AI agents helping you look through your logs to say, hey, that looks like a Chinese attack because these are the TTPs for those particular attacks. Shout out to MITRE. They give you all of that from the MITRE site. Right. So they're helping you with those TTPs. You just got to be able to use them inside your SIM. Do you have a SIM? Are you logging your SIM properly? Do you have the space? Because we're generating a lot of logs now. Shout out to my man Jeffrey Johnson. Let's see what he got. You think there will ever be applied rules, restrictions to AI like the 3 laws of robotics? Yeah, if you look at Anthropic, I think they're trying to do something like that. They're trying to put a framework around it. But if you look at some of the sandbox tests, it's not working. Like one AI, they kind of did a scenario where a guy was locked into a computer room, and for some reason the AI had to cut itself out to unlock the door, so the guy to survive, the AI let the guy die. But yeah, I think you're gonna get there because this is controversial, but I think we will get to a point where an AI bot is close to sentient. Now, I think it's 20 years away. The companies think it's 3 years away. So I think you're going to need to do something like that when you get to that level. When you have the big guys talking about spending almost $1 trillion on data center infrastructure, you're going to have an absurd amount of power to come up with something. And let's be real about this is the United States might have put some guardrails around it. Iran is not, China's not, what's my man, Kim Jong-un, he's not. So people are going to start doing some weird tests with AI. So it's going to be super interesting. So you're going to need to come up with something like that, Jeffrey. The problem is if you look historically, the way an AI learn, you don't program it, you teach it. So in all the movies, the AI learns that the humans aren't very nice, right? The humans are the virus. So I don't know, Jeffrey. I don't want to get too out there with it, but you're going to need to do something in the near future. Once again, those are PBOs. Shout out to Chris. I need to get my 10 hat for. I need to get a banner for myself. Shout out to me. These are PBO's views and only PBO's views. AI assisted cyber attack. We're about to get to the MITRE section. These are the attack chains from a MITRE, my bad. I am not a red team guy. I run red team tests for federal companies. I work with third-party penetration test companies. I just don't do that for a living. I've just always kind of stayed away from that. So once again, the phases: reconnaissance, resource development, initial access, execution, persistence, privilege escalation, defense evasion, credential access, discovery, lateral movement, command and control, exfiltration, and the impact. Facts. I like that. PBO is a liability of PBO. Facts. I like that. That is a good statement. Let's see what my man said. For sure, it has to be trained, preferably on good data. That's the problem, man. Good data a relative term. Yeah, the two, you can overfit and underfit. There's a lot of things to do when you're training data, and two is depending on what chips you're using, the size of memory, or are you keeping persistent memory? Each one of those has a big impact on those particular things. You got the temperature up, you got your P and your K for do you want it to be creative or not creative? There's a lot of settings in that. And AI, I'll drop the link if anybody want to come up. Facts. 100% PBO is a lot. I like that. I like that. I might have to cut that out. Let's talk about the reconnaissance. We're going to flow through that. Once again, drop any questions, cybersecurity or tech in the chat. Go gather information about your target organization, your usage, summarize your OSINT, identify employees from LinkedIn. We were talking about that earlier. Draft target profiles, research tech stacks and vendors. From your MITRE perspective, you have your shows you your T, which you can look it up. Search open website and domains. Search open technical databases. Gather victim identity and information. Once again, me and Chris did one on Snowflake, right? I think I found their AWS Spotlight that we looked in their things. It was just telling you, make sure you have MFA on it. All the companies got hacked and have MFA on it, right? So, but once again, easy Google, easy AWS find. Most of those guys are primarily on their LinkedIn profile. Then once again, you can attack them and find out stuff about them, find out stuff they like and don't like. Prepare resource development, prepare phishing infrastructure and malware, generate phishing email templates. You can just go pull those off the dark web. Draft fake job offers. I think a ton of those are out there already. Write malicious macro code. AI can help you do that on the coding. Create obfuscated script. Uh, Translate lurals into multiple language. You can do that now. Once again, the MITRE technique, acquire infrastructure, establish accounts, stage capabilities. The sad part is MITRE's showing you how to build it up, to build up your red team and your hacking skills, right? So we could go through this and just start, okay, we need our fake emails. We need our infrastructure. We need to create some macros. So really, MITRE's kind of walking you through from that, and you just have AI build it out for you. Initial access goal is to compromise the user. Personalized spear phishing, AI crafted social media, polished business email compromise, your BC phishing, exploit public facing app and valid accounts. AI improves, we talked about that, believability and grammar. Once again, the half of those phishing emails were horrible 10 years ago, but once again, AI is smoothing those out and making those attacks. And once again, from your LinkedIn, we could create personalized spear phishing just for certain the CFO, the tech guys, your DBAs, your cloud infrastructure guys, right? So once again, that makes it a lot easier from an AI perspective to attack those guys. Execution, run malicious payload, troubleshoot PowerShell scripts, debug execution errors, and suggest alternate execution path. Because if you go look at the cloud attack from China, they saw where it generated a particular malicious payload. It wasn't very good. It told it to generate a new one, and the second one was a lot better. So even the AI is learning from its mistakes. So once again, how are you going to handle that from a company when it starts attacking your org? Once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up. No pressure. PBO kicking it on a Thursday. Once again, a friend of mine's retiring tomorrow, so I got to go to a retirement lunch. But I'm gonna definitely put out a video, so check me out tomorrow. Persistence, maintain access. Suggest registry persistent techniques. Draft scheduled task commands. Propose stealthier backdoor methods. Boot or login auto start execution. Schedule a task or job. Create an account. I was at a large government agency, and we were doing a FISMA NIST 800-53 assessment. And somebody said, I never forget this like it was yesterday. What is crime running on Unix? What you mean? What is it running? Well, it was running as root. So if a developer said drop the disk, it would drop the disk, right? So a lot of times we talk about scheduled tasks, we just never thought about. We harden everything, databases, apps, network. Nobody ever thought about putting a cron job. So if a junior developer put something or got tricked to put something in there to drop something, or you could probably SFTP it out. Nobody ever thought about checking the cron job and what it was running at. Now, once we kind of figured out, but I never forget that, I was like, oh my God, I never would have thought about what privileges is the cron job running on Unix. Now, a lot of times there's so many other things. People don't run a lot of cron jobs. There's so many things, especially in AWS and Azure. But from that standpoint, what is it running as and what privileges does it have? I just remember like that was yesterday. I was like, oh my God, I would never thought about checking the cron job. Privilege escalation, AI usage, research privilege escalation CVEs, explain exploit mechanisms, generate a proof of concept code modification, exploit for privilege escalation, abuse, elevation control mechanisms. One of them was the cron job. You can elevate privileges. Because you can actually update your privileges and give you higher privileges. Because once again, it was running as root. But to a lot of CVEs, they're going lateral movement to get better privileges, more root access, and those type of things. So kind of going through your infrastructure or just asking AI what would be the most, shout out to my man, Gabe, he call it living off the land, right? Somebody using a printer to go east and west to get higher privileges, once again, off the cron job or something. But it starts off as a printer user, just being able to go to the printer. And once again, living off the land, it's stuff that you have on your system. Once again, your cron job. Anybody can almost put anything in a cron job, right? Because we wasn't really thinking about that from attack surface and attack surface, attack vector. So once again, how do you handle that from that particular perspective? Defense evasion, rewrite malware to avoid signal detection, obfuscate PowerShell, suggest sandbox evasion techniques, AI assistant code mutation, right? So once again, how do you write code so the signature isn't known, so it won't block it? You writing different PowerShell. Then once again, is your PowerShell? Did they put it on a task so it's in the scheduler? And once again, what is that scheduler running as? And a lot of times you try to sandbox stuff, but how does it get out the sandbox? All right, so those once again are different techniques. And shout out to MITRE, they give you the T so you can look that up and figure out how to figure out those techniques to be able to block them. Credential access, generate credentials, harvesting scripts, explain the usage, refine key logging scripts, OS credential dumping or stuffing is a big one, and input capture. So how are people using credentials? Trying to get away from those API keys because they end up everywhere. Right? If we do, we have some kind of rate limit on it, or you can only do API keys from these particular IP addresses because these third-party sites or server are approved to log into us. So if you have the API keys, if you're not coming from these particular IP addresses, right, then you will be blocked. Now, don't get it twisted. We know we can spoof IP addresses, right? So we're trying to do defensive depth. So you got your API keys, you got your IPs, you got your limiting. So you want to have 4 or 5 techniques around. So it's a defense in depth. So it's just not one thing. If you get breached or somebody get your API keys. 2, you want to rotate your API keys on a regular basis. Discovery, draft enumeration scripts, suggest AD discovery queries, optimize network scanning protocols. So part of your reconnaissance is what are you going to discover? Account discovery, remote system discovery, network service scanning. So you know they're going to scan your public facing IPs, but what do they get from that? I scan public IPs and it show me your whole network underneath, right? So you got to figure out what does that look and what can they get through. from that. Lateral movement, crash PSZ commands suggest SMB and RDP pivot strategies. Remote desktops are always a problem, right? So, how do you do remote desktop? I'm kind of anti-remote desktop. I'm more of a Unix guy, but a lot of people use RDP. So, but once again, there's strategies. Me and Chris talked about that. I'm more using VDI virtual desktop, right? So you get on a virtual desktop, then from that virtual desktop, you RDP, but then I have all the security of the cloud. I got the IP coming from your home address, right? So once again, defense in depth and more layers. So if I'm doing RDP, I'm definitely trying to do that from a VDI virtual desktop. We were looking at Azure's and AWS. They had a cube for like 150, and it's like just like a Google Drive. You just log into the cloud, and the cloud sets up your desktop. And really, all that desktop is running from the power of the cloud. But then once again, I've got federal encryption. I got IP address. I could put location on there. I could put a ton of security on that virtual desktop in the cloud. Then your laptop that you dial in from, that's in a sandbox, right? So that's the kind of security from a federalist perspective that I like to see. Shout out to me. Give myself a shout out. Command and control. Suggest C2 protocol patterns, create demand generation algorithms, recommend fallback channel, AP application layer protocol, Ingress tool transfer, and proxy. So a lot of times you're a command and controller going out to IPs that um, are known to be on the blacklist or known to be suspect, right? So if you run any of the Microsoft or Mandiant tools, they'll tell you that that IP is from a phishing spot, a fishy spot. Then two is anytime we're sending data out, we should be sending to a company that we know their IP range. So most companies says these are our public IP ranges. So if it's trying to go out to a IP range that's not in our list, that should hit our logs, and there should be a warning that goes out in emails to people that hey, someone's trying to send out a file to a known unknown IP address. But a lot of times we don't test that, especially when we're moving out files because people logging in from all over the planet, people looking at our outside website. But when we're sending out companies, IPs, companies PII, we should go out to known IP address and known websites. Now, if they spoof us, once again, a defense in depth, exfiltration, suggest encrypted exfiltration methods, optimize data chunking, encode data to bypass the DLP. Like, see, we got data loss prevention. But a lot of times when you encrypt your files, most DLP, they don't really actually have the key to unencrypt it to check if it's moving. So a lot of times the bad guy's going to encrypt your stuff because they know your DLP can't send it, can't see it, right? So it's going to bypass your DLP. So a lot of times your DLP, if you're sending out a file, you should have another key that can decrypt that file. The DLP should look at it to make sure it's not known PII or some kind of IP before you send it out. But then you got to re-encrypt it back, right? So that's a lot of infrastructure, and it can be could be a heavy lift. It could be a heavy lift. The impact draft ransomware note, automate encryption scripts, plan destructive payload timing, data encryption for impact, inhibit system recovery and data destruction. Right, any data we have that's coming from a website, or if we generate out to send to another company, we need to be making a copy of that and putting it into the file we sent or any file we got coming in. We're gonna make a copy and put it in our logging section. Why would we do that? Because if we need to resend a file, right, or if we need to do some investigation, we should always have copies of those files going in and out, and we should at least keep them for a year. Oh, facts. Oh, facts. That's bare minimum. I wouldn't even put SSL on there. I would just put TLS, but I know what you mean. It's all in there. Inspection. Most people, what's your thoughts on that, Wire Dog? I see a lot of people not doing that because it's just an added step. I guess they believe once they encrypt the file, it's good going out. They don't need to check it or review it. I don't see that done a lot, Wired Dog. What's your thoughts on that? Once again, I dropped the link here if anybody wants to come up. No pressure. PBO is just doing his thing. I appreciate everybody for joining me. Key insight: AI is not introducing entirely new MITRE techniques. It's increasing. Shout out to Wired Dog. The speed, the scale, lowering technical barriers. Once again, I don't think it's sophisticated people. Now, there's some sophisticated orgs who's doing that. But once again, I think the script kiddies are getting a lot better. Improving logistics and security, social engineering quality. Once again, there used to be a lot of misspellings in those emails, not anymore. Helping attackers troubleshoot in real time. Underlying attack techniques remains largely the same. Yeah, I think it's the speed and the quantity of the attack. Now they can do every MITRE attack on the planet, right? They can figure out what your infrastructure then. A lot of organizations kind of specialize in certain attacks. That's why MITRE had their TTP. This is their technique. This is their process. We know this is their fingerprint of how they attack you. Now people are like, hey, what's open? We can pull out from everybody and every kind of attack. Sometimes you cannot do it. And yes, it can be a mess with transfer process. All facts. No, that's 100%. I just see a lot of people that say we encrypted. we sending it. It was us. Right. So a lot of times too, if you can take over a process, you can put PII in a process that didn't have PII. And once it's encrypted, once again, it's going to get past their DLP and their fingerprints and all that stuff. And that's an easy way for the bad guys to exfiltrate your files because once they encrypt it, you're not checking out. The other part of that is from anomaly protection. Like you normally sending out 10 gigs and all of a sudden you got a petabyte file that went out. That's your whole database, but you don't have anomaly detection in, so it's just another file. No, it doesn't matter if the biggest file in history for your company and they just stole your database. It's hard for companies to get a baseline detection of your organization to figure out your anomaly. So usually you got to let it run for a quarter or so to figure out the baseline of your company before you can start getting those anomaly checks. And I don't see that done in a lot of companies. They're not mature. Now, a lot of times they just cut it on and now you start getting a lot of false positives, right? But I think a lot of companies struggle in that particular area. I think that's all I had today. Once again, Gemini AI used by hackers, all the attack stages. We just went through the MITRE attack list. I like going through that because I don't do a lot of red teams at MITRE attack. But once again, from an incident response, I think we need to get comfortable with that because I think from an incident response exercise, shout out to RegTech, you need to do those exercises so your company, your orgs are not surprised or startled when you get attacked by AI. Because it's not if, it's just when. It's just when. So two is that gets your organization, your command and communication structure. Who gets called? Who sends out the information to the IRS? Who sends out information to your vendors, right? If you're a software product or MSRP, who on your client list should get notified? Then once again, if a particular PI got released in AI, how many records was it? For your state where most of your clients is, what's the limit for you to notify? Indiana, anything over 1,000 records, I got notified the state general attorney. And if I don't, I'm gonna get big fine because he felt slighted. So once again, from your notification list, who's on it? From a GRC perspective, those are the things you need to kind of figure out. Let's see what my man Wired Dog said. Some of these now ML built to them. Oh, facts. I agree with that. But a lot of times, the machine learning has to look over your network and your file movements so it can build the baseline. But now you're 100% correct. I think Detective inside AWS, I think that's their version of that. FB heavy at times, but yeah. No, that's true. That's true. So once again, I'll hang out a little longer. I appreciate everybody for joining me. We about an hour and five. Just wanted to kind of go through. And once again, I think from a incident response exercise, you definitely need to put an AI in there, even if it's just high level. The AI spit out some PII. What's what's the response and what's the run book for that? Right? Can we figure out who ran the AI to get that information back? A lot of times, unless you're a public company, those are going to a client or internal. So, who ran it? Who got it? Maybe they were supposed to see it. All right. Do they have a right to know? All right. But we need to be able to figure out who got the information and figure out if they have a right to know. Then, once again, was that least privileges? Should they not know that? And a lot of times, you should have guardrails around that. So, even if it responds to that, a lot of times you have guardrails around your AI that says, "Oh, if it looks like SSN, don't let them respond with that, or put stars in front of it." So you can't put guardrails around your response, right? A lot of times those are the bigger companies, and they charge you for those guardrails. But once again, you want to have that in there so you don't get a big fine. And if not, if it's a money issue, just type that up. And I think WireDog put it in there. That's in your exception document. We want to do guardrails this year. We can't. It's in the budget for 2027, and this is what we're going to do in the future. And this is the write up. And we're currently testing it in a proof of concept, right? Because I think your auditors they want you to have guardrails, but this is your mitigating control. This is your compensating control. This is what you're doing. You got a policy. Nobody should put PII inside the LLM. We got our RAG for our database. There's no inside of our documents that we train it on. There's no PII in there. If you're in AWS, Azure, Macy will go through all our documents to make sure there's no SSNs or PIIs in there. So that's the things from a GRC we need to talk about. I appreciate you, WireDog. Go check my man WireDog out. He's doing some great videos. I try to share them. I appreciate you, Jeffrey Johnson. Definitely was a dump. I appreciate everybody for joining me. I'm out. Professor Black Ops, come check me out. Once again, check out my video tomorrow. I am not going live at noon. I got to go to a retirement lunch for a buddy of mine. One day I'm going to try to do the, I can't even think of it, pre-recorded live where you can do that. I have never done that. So I probably get Chris Whitlock to help the other people, but nah, just checking. I'm gonna put a video out tomorrow. Once again, I appreciate everybody out there. Go check my man out tonight. We're gonna be in the Study GRC Discord. We're gonna be Discording tonight, so I'll probably be in there bothering those guys. Once again, I hang out with those guys a lot. I appreciate you, Chris. I'm out. Everybody have a nice day. PBL gonna go get some lunch, even though he's on a diet. I'm out. Everybody have a good day. Shout out to me, GRC.